Hello and welcome to Conversations Under the Canopy. My name is Michelle Martin and I am your host for today's program. And I have been a Canopy team member for 8 years. I work within the customer success management team, providing our clients proactive services and solutions for their teams. I am also a certified international health coach and support Canopy's wellness initiatives, providing resources on topics such as whole body health, mindfulness, sleep hygiene, meditation, and more. This is our second year providing this series. If you are new to Conversations, it is a series of short sessions where we speak with Canopy industry experts and learn about services and valuable insights in the world of employee well-being, engagement, and performance. This program is being recorded. We'll have time at the end for questions, but feel free to type your questions in the chat box. And after the presentation, we will follow up with a handout, a recording, and a survey, and your feedback would be greatly appreciated. Our guests today are two of Canopy's own counseling team, Brittany Kokendorfer and Whitney Neese. Brittany and Whitney are an essential part of the clinical team. They support members with one-on-one counseling, but also collaborate with clients during critical incidents or performance-based referrals, and also just general mental health resources. In this conversation, we will discuss suicide awareness and prevention in the workplace. We are pleased you're here. This is going to be an opportunity to engage in a conversation that can often feel overwhelming or intimidating, and our goal is to provide tools to support your teams and community. Welcome, Brittany and Whitney. So glad you're here. Let's just jump right in. Nobody expects organizational leaders to be mental health experts, but what are some of the basics leaders need to know about supporting their employees and suicide awareness and prevention in the workplace?
Yeah, Michelle, thank you so much for that great intro. And thank you for asking this question. Again, we don't expect y'all to be experts. So today we're just going to give you some skills and some tools that you can take away and have a really great start and kind of overview of how to work with this and when you see it in an employee. So the first things we want to teach y'all are statements that raise alarm, right? Recognizing what to look for in an employee and when to even know that this might be a thing that you should be looking for in an employee. Next, we're going to talk about asking the question, right? That can be really anxiety provoking and an uncomfortable thing to do. So we want to give you some skills, tools, and information to be able to have confidence in asking that question. Next, a really important thing is how you're going to respond, right? Asking the question feels like a big hump to get over with the employee, but then how do you respond in a way that's helpful and promotes a culture of safety and, all those good things in a workplace? Lastly, we'll get you information about connecting to resources. And so we'll talk about what to expect from Canopy, how we can provide support through this process as well.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Brittany, for kind of bringing us in, and Michelle for your introduction. I think we just want to start with the statements that we might hear that could raise alarm, things we're wanting to be cluing into. I'll give you a second to look over these statements. The statements can range from "I wish I wasn't here" to "I want to die," and everything in between. And these can be really heavy statements to be hearing. Beyond that, I would also like to acknowledge that there are things that might occur or behaviors that might occur that we want to clue into as well that aren't written up on this slide. Some of these behaviors might be things like giving away possessions or sudden shifts in attendance, drug and alcohol use or changes in drug and alcohol use, the death of a close loved one, any increased or prolonged stress. Those are things that we should be cluing into as well. Now, while we are highlighting these statements and these behaviors that are warning signs, I also want to acknowledge that just because these things are present doesn't necessarily mean that someone is going to commit suicide. However, again, we want to take the appropriate actions if we are hearing these things or seeing these things and kind of moving through it at that pace. One side point that we wanted to highlight, and this fact isn't gender inclusive. However, it is an important fact to talk about, is that although more women than men attempt suicide, men are actually 4 times more likely to die by suicide. So this is an important issue for everyone.
Yeah. So what do we do when we hear statements like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So next, that moves us right into how to address things when we are seeing behaviors or hearing these statements that raise alarm. What's our next step? So research shows that asking the question does not plant the idea in someone's head, right? That's a fear that many people have with asking this question, right? If I mention it, is it going to bring it up and give them the idea? The answer is no. The most important thing is that you ask this question right here on the screen. Some things that are unhelpful when questioning that we want to just highlight would be arguing, threatening, raising your voice, right? Coming into it with any, physical aggression that doesn't feel like care or support, right? Debating whether suicide is right or wrong. That's not really helpful in this situation. We really want to just be unjudgmental, be supportive. Some of the examples of things that sometimes people just have a quick response are, you wouldn't do anything stupid, would you? Or suicide is a bad idea, right? And I know that those can be statements that we might feel like are helpful in that moment, but again, that's putting judgment and arguing things that we don't want to do. A big part that we want to emphasize here is that if you can't ask this question, are you thinking about suicide? If it feels too uncomfortable or dysregulating for you, definitely find someone who can.
Yeah, many people, I feel like, wouldn't know what to do if somebody expressed suicide thoughts or even just thoughts of harming themselves. So, what is the appropriate response?
Yeah, another really important question because a lot of times it's really hard to find the words to say. And I do want to emphasize that really sometimes it's not exactly about what we say, but more so how we show up in that space, which is going to be showing up empathetically, showing up like we're really ready to listen and to learn and be a support. Obviously, you can look at the screen and see some examples on here. Things like, I'm on your side, we'll get through this. Thank you for telling me. Again, just really leaning into that conversation and just showing up in the best way that you can, which is going to be authentically yourself. So those are some things that we would definitely want to highlight on this part of the presentation.
Yeah. And we definitely recognize not everyone has that mental health training and are comfortable having those difficult conversations. So, can you talk a little bit more about how to find appropriate resources?
Yeah, one thing that we always recommend is if you're not sure what to say, you can always call Canopy before your meeting with the employee to prepare for that conversation with the counselor. All you have to do is call our main line and just ask for a management consultation, just to explain the situation, and a counselor can really walk you through what are the important points that you need to hit on so that you do feel more prepared for that. We want to also go over what you can expect when you call Canopy for any sorts of questions about this, right? So you can also offer them 24/7 crisis support or have that for yourself too if this is feeling like a really hard thing for you to manage. We'll also get the employee connected to some ongoing counseling. We can find them counseling within their preferences, on insurance, really make sure that they get that long-term care and support that they're needing. We can also do resource retrievals for specialty care that seems like it's outside of the EAP scope. So if they have something specific that's really causing this, we can make sure they get help for that too. We have other resources available too, coaching, financial planning, all this stuff that actually you don't think about it, but is suicide prevention because you're supplying employees with these resources. You can check out our website for a full list of all of those things, but all that is really important to support the employee. There's also some other resources outside of Canopy that we really wanted to promote for suicide prevention and awareness. And that's going to be the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. That's 24/7 free crisis lifeline that can be anonymous that you can call. NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, is also a super great resource. You can just go online and see a lot of information about suicide awareness and prevention and all of that. We also wanted to highlight that at this point, when you send them off with resources, you may feel like the job's done. We still want to also acknowledge that you're going to come back to work and they're going to come back to work, right? How do you address that? So follow up with the employee is also really important. After they've been connected to the support and the resource and safety has been established, you can also just promote that culture of caring in your company by just checking in on them, continuing to provide an atmosphere where they're encouraged to use resources available to them, and they're encouraged to talk openly about mental health in a way that is really, really great to have at a company.
Thank you for that. That is just great information all around. We are being cognizant of your time. I know that your leadership really calls you in lots of different places, but if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box and we can address your questions. But yeah, we just really appreciate everyone being here, having this conversation. If there are no questions, you can always give us a call.
Yeah. And while we're waiting for questions, I kind of want to just harp on one other point. And I think it's in the undercurrent of our conversation today. However, I think it's essential that we highlight it. And that is that this is a really big conversation to be having, and a really heavy conversation to be having. And there's really no perfect script. There's no perfect way to show up in that scenario beyond just showing up with empathy and care. And I really encourage you, even after this conversation, to find a way to take care of yourself. Not only after like maybe having these conversations in the future, but also having the conversation in this presentation. It's so important that we're accessing support for ourselves so we can continue to show up for other people.
Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful point, and thank you for reminding of us to take care of ourselves. And thank you both for being here and providing your expertise and your compassion and knowledge. We really appreciate it. And thank everyone for joining us today. We hope you'll go attend another conversation that we're having coming up in November. And we'll be reviewing one of our fastest growing benefits, growing your leadership skills. So stay tuned for more information on that and some emails. But until that time, please take care of yourself and we wish you well.